this male protagonist is really perverted. Just because he has immortality, he marries and falls in love with a female zombie, and even captures innocent zombies as witnesses. After defeating the old lowly, the two were sent to the round table. The male protagonist's way of greeting was also particularly special. He bit off his fingers and gave one to everyone but was punched away as soon as he landed. It turns out that Anna, who is ranked 5th, wants to avenge the old Lolita, but the rules of the organization prohibit internal fighting among members. Seeing that the two sides are at war, the boss takes action decisively. The next second, the two of them become out of control and point their weapons at important people. Companion. After the 10 people were in place, the Doomsday Road was opened, which was the earliest ancient relic discovered on Earth. The book will be open when the Round Table members gather. If you completing the tasks, you will be rewarded, and if you complete the task, you will be punished. There are 6 tasks in total this time. The first is to capture the unknown burnout. There are 6 participants and the reward is an additional 11th person. Second, capture the unknown object and devour it. The number of participants is 5. The person who denies it will be rewarded with the non-combustible location. Third, the crusade against the unknown objects with 1 participant rewards the unification of in the world. Fourth, the person who captures the negative is invisible. There is only 1 participant and the reward is the location of the unknown object's name. Fifth, capture the unknown object from the past, with 3 participants, and the location of the ancient relic, Rebel, will be rewarded. The last step is to capture the unknown Honkai. There are 3 participants and the person who denies it will be rewarded with the location of death. The time to complete all tasks is 2.5 weeks. Otherwise, you will be punished if you do not complete them. You will be added unknown objects. The male protagonist and the Fuko could not figure out the situation, they could only remember all the contents. Later, the boss asked Nick in the 8th seat to analyze the data. After some twitching, he felt that only the first 3 could be completed, and he could give priority to capturing Burnout. After all, adding another member would also be beneficial to them. It is best not to choose the task of capturing Honkai, because there is too little data about him, and if you act rashly, you will only lose the members. So the boss decided to aim at finishing in the top 3. Even if he was punished in the end, there was nothing he could do. This time he could only focus on increasing his combat power. However, the Fuko asked at this time, didn't she understand that these courses were necessary? In his opinion, the deniers Mola mentioned were human beings just like them. Are they going to be hunted down just because they have more abilities? But the boss told him that there were 98 times in total, that is, the number of times they added truth to the earth, such as gender, language, race, death, etc. These were only a small part of them, once every 3 months, even if they left it alone. But the punishment will keep increasing. So they chose to accept the challenge and at the same time, in order to increase their power, they killed the creator of the family truth. If the Fuko cannot accept it, try to make a contribution. As long as you surpass him, you can become the chief and gain the highest command authority. After hearing this, the male protagonist climbed onto the round table and tore off book. He wanted to know which course was the most difficult. After all, the higher the difficulty, the more contributions he would get. But this made several people on the side look dumbfounded. They had never seen such an arrogant person before. Then Molu's answer was Honkai. There were 3 people participating. The male protagonist took the decision decisively after hearing the words. The participants were him, the Fuko and the kid beside him. The innocent Shin was forced to board the pirate ship. However, the male protagonist had no intention of taking him along with him, just to fill up the number of people. Although you can travel around the world unimpeded by wearing an organized tie and can automatically recognize all languages, the male protagonist said he would take his private jet to have a date in the air with a Fuko. At this moment, the system suddenly sounded an alarm. Number 1129 took over the caretaker's body and escaped. He is currently on the 8th floor. Anyone present should arrest him immediately. After searching, Shin's assistant found that this thing came by chance. It turned out that 1129 is the life form of clothes. He will possess others and become the clothes that person wants most. Once he becomes obsessed with that clothes, control of the body will be taken away. As soon as he finished speaking, the target punched the male protagonist, but was knocked unconscious by a headbutt. But when the controlled body cannot move, the clothes will find a target again, and soon the clothes will be transferred to the wooden body and become a set of muscle underwear. And Shin ability is completely useless at this time, because he can only control Mui, but cannot control the clothes that allow Mui to move. Suddenly, the Fuko behind him stepped forward to attack him. Although it seemed like he was in vain, he had already brought misfortune. After the target fainted, the clothes were transferred to the Fuko. Sure enough, as he thought, the clothes were an old pervert and would prefer women to attack. The male protagonist also had a clear understanding and blocked the Fuko in time. But things looked very strange after the male protagonist was possessed. It turned out that the clothes the male protagonist wanted confused the parasites. Not only did they have to have the function of automatic repair, but they also had to be available at any time. Seeing that the clothes could not be changed, the male protagonist mocked him as trash. At this time, the Fuko sensed the danger, and it seemed that the misfortune he had just encountered with the male protagonist was about to happen. It turns out that there are two old men downstairs who are experimenting with ancient relics. Fortunately, the male protagonist is least afraid of being bombed. However, he complains that the regeneration of the clothes is too slow, and it actually takes 15 seconds to return to the original shape. It can only be said that the requirements of the male protagonist are really high. The clothes became the male protagonists, and he also gained points and rose to 9th. Then they received new news that a large number of zombies had appeared in a wilderness town in New York, which was probably related to Honkai impact. So the male protagonist and the Fuko started to set off towards the target location. Originally, the male protagonist did not intend to take the Shin with him, but he secretly hid under the car. The organization has confirmed that Honkai is located on a small island in a lake, which is now full of zombies. In order to prevent it from flowing out, they have set up walls around it. Shin knew the danger but still followed because he wanted to see a different male protagonist, Victor, who is known as the god of victory. Another personality that only emerges when the male protagonist removes the cerebral thrombosis, and the next day they arrived at their destination. After confirming the target, the male protagonist took out the rocket launcher with his backhand. After attracting the zombies, he drove the truck and rushed over. Of course, he asked beforehand whether the zombies could return to normal, but the answer was no, so he chose to enter the city in the simplest and most violent way. In the zombie crowd, he said that he would kill everyone, but if anyone was still conscious, he would squat down. Then the male protagonist transformed into a whirlwind top and got rid of the zombies in a few seconds. However, there is indeed a conscious person among them, and his body has not begun to decay. The male protagonist thought that he might be able to help find Honkai, but then Shin spoke. He felt that the male protagonist was reckless and rushed in without considering the consequences at all. Unknown objects are different from deniers. Their existence itself is a rule. It's possible that you were already infected the moment you stepped in. After hearing this, the male protagonist apologized decisively. It seems that these few hundred years have made the male protagonist understand and reflect faster than anyone else. Shin couldn't say anything more, so he could only ask if there was any abnormality in his body. Although the male protagonist didn't feel any discomfort, the female zombie kept pulling his clothes. Sure enough, a countdown appeared on his belly. It seemed that when the branches reached 0, he would completely turn into a zombie. The Shin and the Fuko checked and found that the body did not appear, which meant that they were now in a position where Honkai could not impose rules. At this time, the male protagonist's body began to gradually decay. Although he could be reborn again with the power of immortality, the branches would continue to rot when they returned to 0, and the final result was a half-corpse, half-human appearance. However, the male protagonist can understand the language of zombies because of this. The female zombie has a small wish to wear a wedding dress. If she helps him fulfill it, she will tell the male protagonist the location of the Honkai. So the male protagonist immediately decided to hold a wedding with the other party. The cautious Shin is also worried that it is a trap for the enemy. However, the Fuko almost died laughing. After watching the male protagonist leave, he suddenly discovered the child in the sewer. In order to save the child, he chased after him, but after running for a while, he was sucked back by Shin ability because again it is very likely that he will enter the scope of Honkai ability in the future, and that boy should have been tricked. Suddenly the boy appeared again, pointing a gun at the two of them. It turned out that he mistook the visitor for Honkai's subordinates and mistakenly thought he was here to get rid of them. This was proven by the fact that the Fuko was standing in a safe place, so he wrapped himself up and rushed in. At the moment of entering, a countdown also appeared in the Fuko abdomen. Seeing this, Shin could only accompany him, and he wanted what he wanted. The male protagonist on the other side brought the female zombie to the church. In order to enhance the atmosphere, the male protagonist also captured a bunch of zombies to add to the fun. The female zombie who was able to wear the wedding dress was very satisfied. She hoped that the male protagonist could save other people who were suffering because they could not die. He relied on myself, but I didn't expect that the statue's true form was a giant. His appearance turned the entire church into ruins, while the male protagonist was safe and sound under the protection of the zombies. Immediately afterwards, he fired his fists to sound the alarm, and he let all the zombies' revenge follow the sound. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this.